Just take a sneaky peek back on the movies we've covered so far on our Arnie Revisited series.
Let off some steam, Bennett.
And the Austrian Oak had already covered several genres in his rise from bodybuilder to Hollywood icon.
I'll be back.
Raw, Deal and Commando were straight up action movies, while his work as Conan was an epic mix of action and fantasy.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
You can even argue that the Terminator is a classic 80s slasher flick, and not simply the revolutionary sci-fi masterpiece it's generally regarded as. However, he hadn't managed to blend both horror and sci-fi in any of his previous movies, in the way he did with the film we're focusing on in today's episode, Predator. It was such a huge success for both star and franchise that it not only helped to further cement Arnie as a Hollywood icon, but also created a franchise packed with sequels, a prequel, crossovers, video games, graphic novels, and so much more. Yeah, some of the content in the Predator franchise may be somewhat hit and miss, but there's no denying the iconic nature of the first movie, with its memorable one-liners,
Stick around,
gory deaths, and awesome jungle-based action. As we found out in our last episode, the Austrian Oak's last movie before taking on deadly camouflage aliens, 1986's Raw Deal, was a decent action flick, but not necessarily an iconic entry in his back catalogue. Well, apart from this line maybe.
You should not drink and bake.
So the actor was more than likely on the lookout for a script that could elevate his career and also expand upon the genres in which he had already found great success. Was Predator the movie to achieve all this? We all know it was, of course, but just how exactly did the sci-fi epic come to be such an iconic movie of the 80s? Well, it's time to work on those biceps and embrace your inner goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, as we find out here on Arnie Revisited.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, just like me.
Yeah, strap this on your sore-ass plane.
Stick around. You should not drink and bake. I'll be back.
Another thing I mentioned in our Raw Deal episode was the rivalry between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, and how their movies were often in the marketplace together, duking it out for that much sought after box office revenue. So, amusingly, it was one of Stallone's most iconic characters that led to Predator being made, if you believe the long-standing rumours. Following the release of Rocky IV, in which we see the Italian stallion take down Dolph Lundgren's pumped-up Ivan Drago, a joke went round Hollywood that if a fifth Rocky movie was to be made, he would have to fight an alien, given that he'd run out of earthly opponents. Screenwriting brothers Jim and John Thomas took inspiration from the joke and wrote a screenplay based upon it called Hunter. The original concept focused on what it is to be hunted, and featured a band of alien hunters that sought out various different targets. This was streamlined to be one extraterrestrial hunting the most dangerous species, humans, and in particular, the most dangerous kind, a combat soldier. Also, because there were constant special forces operations happening during the period in which the movie would be based, Central America was chosen as the film's setting. However, as the Thomas brothers were still an unknown quantity in Hollywood, they struggled to gain any attention for their project, and eventually took the risky idea of slipping it under the door of 20th Century Fox producer Michael Levy.
That's awful.
This turned out to be just the break they needed, as Levy brought the screenplay to the attention of fellow producer Joel Silver, who gave the project the green light. He brought on his former boss Lawrence Gordon as co-producer and hired Nomad's director John McTiernan as the movie's director. In terms of the cast, obviously our favourite Austrian Oak got the call for the lead role of Dutch, saying at the time when producer Silver and Gordon approached him, "The first thing I look for in a script is a good idea. A majority of scripts are rip-offs of other movies. People think they can become successful overnight. They sat down one weekend and wrote a script because they read that Stallone did that with Rocky. Predator was one of the scripts I read, and it bothered me in one way. It was just me and the alien. So we redid the whole thing so that it was a team of commandos, and then I liked the idea." The movie had its leading man then, but what about the rest of its macho, jungle-dwelling, elite paramilitaries? Well, believe it or not, the muscles from Brussels and recent advocate for mountain cold light beer was originally cast as the Predator, which, looking back on the character we see in the movie, seems like a pretty wild choice. Van Damme was chosen with the intent that the physical action star would use his martial arts skills to make the Predator an agile, ninja-like hunter. However, when the relatively diminutive star was compared next to his bodybuilding, 6-foot-plus co-stars, it was pretty clear that a more physically imposing man was required to make the creature more intimidating.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Also, Van Damme allegedly constantly complained about being too hot in the suffocating suit, as well as the fact that he would only appear on screen as the Predator. Ultimately, Van Damme was removed from the movie, and they instead turned to 7'2" actor Kevin Peter Hall, who had form in playing larger-than-life characters, having just finished work as the Sasquatch in Harry and the Hendersons.
We don't know if it's male or female.
Definitely male.
How can you tell?
Rounding out the cast as Arnie's elite band of soldiers was Rocky's Carl Weathers as Dylan, while pro wrestler and former Navy SEAL Jesse Ventura was cast as Blaine, thanks in no small part to his formidable physique. Rounding out the main players were the likes of Sonny Landham, Richard Chavez and Bill Duke, who Arnie had a rumble with, of course, in 1985's Commando.
Fuck you, asshole.
Fuck you, asshole.
Filming on the movie began in March 1986 and, as per the end credits, was entirely shot in Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco and Palenque, Chiapas, Mexico. However, sometimes big-budget Hollywood productions can't get in the way of true love, and first unit production was halted so that Arnie could get to his wedding in time, being flown in a private jet, courtesy of the production, to Hyannisport, Massachusetts. On March 26th, he was married to Maria Shriver, and the couple had a whirlwind 3-day honeymoon while the second unit picked up additional shots. Also, in order to stay in the shape required for the muscle-bound action, Carl Weathers said that the cast would get up at 3 AM to work out before the day's filming.
This guy's got the biggest arms in the world now. I gotta kind of beef up here. I gotta pump up a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, you're a wimp.
So
With the actor also claiming to his co-stars that his physique was naturally given to him, only to then secretly work out when everyone else was out of sight. In fact, such were the physical demands of the movie, Schwarzenegger had gym equipment shipped out to Mexico so that he and his co-stars could work out before filming began. It wasn't just staying in shape that the actors had to contend with. Visibility in the Predator suit was limited, which made the tussles between Arnie and Kevin Peter Hall more perilous than they should have been. With the actor saying that, when he's supposed to slap me around and stay far from my face, all of a sudden, whap, there's this hand with claws on it. Hall stated in an interview that his experience on the film wasn't a movie, it was a
Survival story for all of us.
with one example being the actors having to wade through foul and stagnant water that was full of leeches.
Knock, knock.
Let me just start this section of the video by saying that I absolutely adore Predator, and for the most part, I found a lot of merit in some of the sequels and other installments that have followed. I was far too young to catch Predator when it first hit cinemas in 1987, not for want of trying, mind, so I had to wait until its home entertainment release on the wonderful format that was VHS to get a sneak peek. By which I mean waiting for me older brother to acquire a copy and for us to watch it with his pals when our folks had gone out for the night. We were all obsessed with the ultra-violent VFX, especially the open chest cavity and blown off arm scenes, the ridiculous machismo, and, of course, the forever quotable one-liners.
Son of a bitch is dug in like an Alabama tick.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
The movie's narrative also plays out perfectly, with the plot kicking off as Schwarzenegger and his comrades venture into the jungle in search of South American officials who have been kidnapped by terrorists. The team track and locate the fugitives, but soon discover they're up against a lot more than terrorists when they find the skinned bodies of Green Berets who Dutch knew hanging from the trees. Of course, unbeknown to the team at the time, the Predator is behind these grisly killings, and thanks to an opening shot of an alien spacecraft deploying a shuttle to Earth, we already know the antagonist is more than likely an extraterrestrial. The aliens' mission on Earth is to hunt armed and dangerous human quarry, and it's not long before Arnie's crack squad are slowly picked off in wonderfully brutal ways. Director McTiernan constructed the action with the kind of efficiency that he would go on to perfect with the similarly legendary Die Hard, a year later in 1988, stringing together the mayhem and kinetic action with great aplomb. Unlike some of Arnie's other more kitsch 80s movies, Predator plays out with a perfect level of credibility, and, more importantly, it's aged well, despite some of the language and terms used by certain characters probably never surviving the scriptwriting stage nowadays. Predator has become a science fiction, horror and action classic, and is clearly not just another dumb 80s Schwarzenegger flick, combining fluid direction with cheesy but hugely entertaining one-liners and gory set pieces. Plus, its villain is so iconic that it surpasses even Arnie's Tarzan-like makeover for the movie's conclusion, and deservedly set in motion a huge and lasting future for the character.
You one ugly motherfucker.
Predator was released on June the 12th, 1987 in US cinemas, with a gross of $12 million over its opening weekend, making it the #1 film at the time. Over the year, it was the second highest grossing movie behind Eddie Murphy's juggernaut sequel, Beverly Hills Cop 2, which is a great result for a movie with a relatively untested premise, but albeit with a massive star attached. Critically, the movie was met with a somewhat mixed reception. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 80% based upon 60 reviews, and the site's critical consensus reads, Predator, part sci-fi, part horror, part action, all muscle. From the more contemporary reviewers, the New York Times described the movie as grisly and dull with few surprises. Cinefantastique wrote that the militarized monster movie tires under its own derivative weight, while the Los Angeles Times proclaimed it to be arguably one of the emptiest, feeblest, most derivative scripts ever made as a major studio movie. More positive, however, were The Hollywood Reporter, who said that the movie is a well-made, old-style assault movie and a full assault visual experience. The UK's Empire magazine also praised the movie, saying that Predator has gradually become a sci-fi and action classic. It's not difficult to see why. John McTiernan's direction is claustrophobic, fluid and assured, staging the action with aplomb but concentrating just as much on tension and atmosphere. A thumping piece of powerhouse cinema. I am definitely with Empire on this one. So then, Arnie fans, that's just about all we have time for in this episode. But as ever, the most important aspects of these retrospectives for all of us here at JoBlo is your take on the movie. Did Arnie and co manage to create a film with a cool premise, badass action, and a legacy that deserves to be associated with the now legendary alien manhunter? Or should it be skinned and strung up like one of its prey? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll see you wonderful action fans next time, here on ARNIE Revisited. Thanks for watching.